My entire life, I've been told the same thing over and over again. I've heard it from teachers, from bosses, and even from my own parents, that I have a bad attitude. This is generally a response to me being stubborn or headstrong or even just bluntly honest. And the funny thing is I've never tried to deny it. It's just that what others consider to be a bad attitude, I consider to be a superpower. Let me explain. My so-called bad attitude manifests in many ways. It comes out in my lack of desire to care about things that I just don't deem worthy of my attention. It comes out in my unwavering desire to get what I want and do things my way. It comes out when I think that my self-worth is being undervalued. And honestly, I think the world would be a better place if more people had a bad attitude. I want to clarify that having a bad attitude doesn't mean being rude or disrespectful to others. It doesn't mean thinking you're better than everyone else. To me, it just means knowing your self-worth, knowing the kind of life you deserve, and calling out the bullshit systems that try to get in your way. In high school, my bad attitude prevented me from taking useless classes seriously. Again, this didn't mean being disrespectful to teachers. It didn't even mean getting bad grades. It just meant knowing that like an elective art course or media studies course was not going to make or break my future and wasn't worth getting stressed out about. It meant knowing I could take a university level math class and work hard for a 75% grade, or I could sleep through a college level math class and get a 95%. And more importantly, it meant knowing that if I wasn't going to go to university and I wasn't going to study something that required math specifically, there was literally no point in me exerting myself and trying harder than I had to. It's very bizarre to me that once you're an adult and you're established in your career, productivity is hailed as the end-all be-all. Society rewards us for having the ability to trim all the fat and to remove all of the excessive tasks that are useless and a waste of time and effort so that we can zero down on the things that earn us the best return, whether that's financial or even just personal fulfillment. That is by and large the underlying message of the entire self-help productivity niche. And there's countless books and documentaries all about just that. But when you're in school, you're encouraged to spend countless hours dedicating yourself to courses and classes for things that you know, even at that point, you're never going to use in the future. And it just seems completely unproductive, but that's how life works at that point. It's very weird. So let's go back to that math class for a second. I was in 11th grade and I decided to take college level math. And to me, it was insanely easy. I did no homework, I took no notes, and I still wound up with a 93% overall based exclusively on in-class assignments and work and quizzes and the final exam. At one point, my teacher pulled me aside and tried to reprimand me for not doing any homework. And I told her that I was perfectly happy with having a 93% and having more time to myself after school. She told me that if I had actually taken the time to do the homework, I probably could have got closer to 100%. And I told her that that wasn't at all important to me. I didn't see any tangible difference in earning 90 versus earning 100. It wasn't going to change a thing, honestly. She told me that it was unfair that I sat there in class listening to my iPod the whole time while other kids were taking notes. And I said, honestly, what the other kids are doing is not my problem. It's none of my business. And if they're not doing so well in the class, then they should be taking notes. But clearly, I don't need to be. She told me I had a bad attitude. In English class, we were assigned classic authors and told we had to do reports on them. And I was given Kurt Vonnegut. And at the time, I honestly didn't know who he was, and I didn't really have any interest in reading his books. But after a little bit of Googling, I found out that a lot of Alexis on Fire songs were actually based off of Kurt Vonnegut books. And they were my favorite band at the time. And I mentioned that to my teacher, and he said, oh, so does that mean you're actually going to give a shit? And I kind of looked at him, and I started to smirk, and I was like, no. And he laughed as well, and then he said,
you know what? You have a bad attitude.
But really, I was just being honest, and I did fine in the class. Fast forward a number of years to me working at various jobs. I was always a pretty good employee. I was 100% reliable. I showed up pretty much on time every day for the most part. I was polite and respectful and helpful to all the customers, and they all seemed to really like me. And I was generally just pretty good at my job. But what I wasn't was a bootlicker. And what that meant was that I wasn't the person who was going to show up 15 minutes before my shift if I wasn't going to be compensated for that time. And it meant I wasn't going to be staying late if I wasn't getting paid overtime. I didn't buy into company culture, and I held no loyalty whatsoever to a corporation who paid me as little as possible and thought that a free can of Coca-Cola was a gracious reward when you got a compliment from a customer. Seriously, a free can of Coca-Cola. When I was offered a promotion to management, which included actually a reduction in income, plus worse hours and more responsibility, I laughed. I was told that the perks of the job were the pride of the job title, as well as potential for future advancement down the road.
No.
When I said that a job title wouldn't pay my bills and that I hoped that my future wouldn't be in retail management, I was told I had a bad attitude.
We're gonna get it.
Do you see a pattern here? My bad attitude is the chip on my shoulder that acts as my personal bullshit detector. It prevents me from being emotionally manipulated, taken advantage of, unnecessarily stressed out, or otherwise screwed over. After more than 5 years of working terrible jobs for terrible pay under terrible bosses, my bad attitude made me say fuck this, which ultimately led to me starting my own business, which gave me more freedom and more control and better money and a way better quality of life overall. When I got a bit older, I watched a number of my friends deal with absolutely nightmarish landlords who would raise their rent over and over until they couldn't afford it anymore, or who would enter the property when they weren't home without their permission and touch their stuff, or who would even decide to sell the place and basically force them out against their will. And when I thought about the idea of anybody, let alone a stranger, having that much control over my life, being able to just uproot me from my home on a whim, I was like, fuck that. My bad attitude helped me to see that I deserve better than that. And not because I'm better than anybody else, but because we all deserve better than that. So I set out to do the impossible and buy a house. And it was the most complicated, difficult thing I had ever done. It took forever, but I finally did it. My so-called bad attitude has allowed me to become the best advocate for myself that I can be and to stand up for myself. It's allowed me to grow a spine. Am I stubborn? Hell yeah, I am. Is it my way or the highway?
You're goddamn right.
Some people start a business because they have this entrepreneurial spirit. I, on the other hand, started a business because I didn't want anybody telling me what to do. And likewise, some people buy a home because they want to build equity or they enjoy, renovating and taking care of things. I bought a home because I didn't want anybody controlling me. My bad attitude is what has given me the drive to accomplish everything I've ever accomplished. So you can call it a bad attitude, that's perfectly fine, but I think it's a superpower, and honestly, I don't know where I'd be without it. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit the like button. I'm pretty new here on YouTube, and every like I get helps me out tremendously. If you haven't done so, please also consider subscribing. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching as always. I really, really appreciate your time, and I will see you guys next week. Take care.
Some scary moments for customers at a Kansas Home Depot. Police responded to reports of a bomb threat at the store in Wichita. A customer alerted employees. A man inside the bathroom said there was a bomb in the building. Police were able to locate the man responsible for those comments, and that man told police he warned other guests to leave the restroom because he was, quote, fixing to blow it up, but had no intention of causing a panic. Man also told police others in the room laughed, understanding his joke, which I'm just now getting. Home Depot says they will not be pressing charges. But I can tell you right now, you asked the producer for me to read that, didn't you? To Ethan now, please.
No.